And now DIT, that's the reason why DIT is coming in, because we've tried to create this awareness that the designers or the tailors must be supported in this industry, and also other stakeholders, because being a fashion president, I'm not just talking about designers being a designer, but all the industry I'm talking about, the people who supply us machines. We have Kiembe people, Kiembe sewing machines. We have the people supplying us with fabrics. We have people teaching. We need journalists, people who can talk right about fashion, present nice pictures, not the pictures that people aim at, taking knickers for the models. That's not what we are looking at. We are trying to address it nicely and properly. So the reason why I'm doing that, abantu basobole okwekkiririza that guno omulimu gwa bbeeyi. DIT has already assessed us, and many other centers that have been put outside there for people, the tailors who are already skilled, to go and be assessed so they can be accredited. If you have good thoughts, maybe you have a birowozo ebirungi you want to table in the parliament, you can as well be able to stand as a parliamentary, as an MP. You get a point. But before, luli babade batuita omutunzi. Batunzi. Like minimizing. When you fail exams, try okutunga. It's not for failures. This is for really genuine people with brains, because there's a lot of mathematics, there's so much geometry, statistics in clothing. Come on, you cannot fail elsewhere and think you're going to try. You try it this side. Yeah.
Welcome to the Creative Industry Talk. My name is Okila. On this fine particular day where we get to discuss, the performing arts in Uganda, all across Africa, and of course, looking into the new Africa-France relationship. What does it really mean to the performing art? Of course, we are going through, the series of discussing the new French relationship with Africa, or the new Africa-French relationship. I don't know which one the other one makes sense, but yes. And of course, to join me in this discussion this morning is a resident panelist. He was here last week. He broke quite a number of things down for those of you who are creative and in the creative art industry. Faisal Kiwewa is the founder and artistic director of Bayimba Cultural Foundation, straight out of Kampala to the rest of the world. Is the foundation doing great stuff? Bayimba for many of the festivals they've been holding all these years. And of course, Faisal is more qualified to be part of this conversation. Faisal, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Eddie.
Yes, and good to have you here. You traveled from the island back to Kampala this morning. You ran into some very interesting things with the policeman controlling traffic. You are the one driving. How did that go?
No, it was good. Things you do for friends, just to get on the show.
You are trying to be creative with the...
No, actually, you know how it is with the morning traffic on Mokono, Ginger Road. It's really busy. And then I was trying to be here on time, but, I didn't manage. But anyway, I'm here.
Well, welcome back to the program. Thanks. We want to start the program from a very interesting point of view, Faisal. I mean, we are on the series of discussing the new Africa-France relationship. What does it really mean from the creative art industry? And this time round, we are looking at the performing arts. Performing arts, many of you made it to Montpellier, for that conference 2021 summit. And many of the people who are there are people who we believe were representing our own interest. But particularly, what does this relationship mean to people who are in the performing arts industry? I mean, you are a programmer.
As we talked about it last week, it's really very important that we look at the relation as a meant to be two-way, not to be like, okay, we are all looking up to France as the bread giver, but we also have to start baking our own bread and maybe build some bakeries. And this is where I think the relationship is really about offering the opportunities for us, the programmers, and not only in Uganda, but the rest of the continent, And as we said last time, that really the idea of opening it up to the Anglophone Africa is a very good opportunity to kind of balance the investment that the French have done in the past. In one way, one would say that it has been a guilt initiative because of what has happened in the past by the French. But at the same time, I think for me as a person and as a programmer, I don't see the bad intentions of what the government, the French government now is trying to do, because to be honest, they have their share of problems as well. But if they look at Africa as a way of engaging with the young people and investing in those young people, I think we should give them some credit. And I think for us as programmers, it's really a good opportunity that we are going to be able to engage at a kind of a leveled ground with the rest of the programmers from the French-speaking countries.
Okay. Talking of that, Faisal, Ugandan art, of course, have been at the forefront of coming up with new things, and we're discussing the emerging and the rising influence of the African art on the global stage and recognition that is coming along with it. What does this really mean from this relationship going forward? Do you think that we're headed to something good? Are we being given the right due, recognition that we need, or the world is just giving us, they say, oh, it's nice, it's good, good, but we're not good. Are we really good that we can now compete on a global stage?
I mean, we've been working. When you look at the history of the performing arts here in Uganda, it's had its, Himalaya kind of process, like up and downs. And this was due to, some of the challenges. Some were political, some were social, some have been economical, but also, I think, technical in a way, that most of the challenges we've faced are because our peers are not technically capacitated to take the industry ahead. And most of the people are really, they find themselves by chance or by effort to be artists or musicians, and they don't have the technical knowledge or the technical skills that they need to be better. They learn along the way, because we've seen some success stories, and some of the people who are really making an effort to do better, to be at the level where they should be, or better than what they should be. And but when you look at the history, that the performing arts were good in the 70s and the 60s, and of course during the war between the late 70s and early 2000 or early 19s, there was nothing much going on, because we are kind of in a very unstable environment. A lot of people lost their interest in the arts, and they moved on to other things, or they migrated. As it's the same thing now, we could see with COVID, most of the people that have been locked down for 2 years, just within this period of 2 years, they have kind of migrated to other avenues, because they could not survive this lockdown and the idea that they have no opportunity to do performances. So the same thing, I think, will be happening in the near future. If we want to present art to the French market, to the French audience, what are we going to deliver? And I think that's a question of not only we, the programmers, because we just program content. I'm also always looking out for good content. If it's not good, I don't program it. So if there is no content, because people have left the industry to other things because of the situation as we've all experienced it, what are we going to do? And as going back to our conversation last week, is to see that we know the opportunities are there. Can we start working towards preparing ourselves to be able, when the opportunity arises, that we are able to deliver the content that is needed to be.
Wow. So do you think that the artist, the performing art, talents are working towards this? Do they understand what this relationship means? Do they understand what France is talking about? Are we taking advantage of this conversation to say, hey, wait, there's now a new market open for us here, new market open in the Francophone countries that we need to be able to take advantage of. We need to be able to start working and preparing the content to actually speak across these boundaries that we were not doing before. Do you see the sense of that?
Yes, you'll be very surprised. Not necessarily for the French, I would say. I don't think everyone now I know working on something happening is because of they are aware of the new relation between France and Africa. I think not so many people know. They heard about, if they did hear about, they heard about the conference, they heard about who went there, but they don't know what came out of it. And it's not really yet public, the information of the outcome is not yet in the public domains. So what is happening here, you will be actually surprised that there is a lot of effort going in creating content. There are so many people doing a lot of stuff here, amazing stuff, and you'll be surprised that in the near future, I think this environment, this COVID situation, has offered an opportunity to so many creative entrepreneurs, creative artists, not all art forms, you know, but at least the theater has been very much marginalized in that case. But when you look at film, music, when you look at fashion, when you look at, new media art forms like visual arts, and there's a lot of stuff that guys have been creating. So we are very happy, and we are very open, lucky that people have not really taken their time to not do anything, but they have really created stuff. And I'm also surprised to see that even contemporary dancers are going back to the studio to start working. You know, theater is also starting to pick up, but they're very much online. So there's a lot of content. I'm not really worried about that. I think what I'm worried about is the process of knowing how to go about engaging with other francophonic people.
Okay. Sometimes, Faisal, when we create content like this, the content is created for a very small niche market that doesn't cut across the wider perspective of the market. And so if this new relationship that France is talking about is open, it means that new opportunity for the performing arts in Uganda, in Kenya, in East Africa, in West Africa, in North Africa, and in Central Africa to now start cross-culturally bringing their their art form together, from the Anglophone countries to the Francophone countries. We're now not just doing this is Francophone, everything is about the French-speaking people, and then if you don't speak French, it's up to you. And then it's about the English-speaking people, and if you don't speak English, is really up about you. That's how things have been going on. But I think that ice is being broken right now. So do you think that we understand the importance of this, and we are beginning to create content in line with this relationship or not? And what should be done from the programmer's point of view?
But I think if you really look at the trend of content creation here, you realize that there are those that have already transcended this smaller market that we are looking at. Because to be honest, Uganda is not a market for theater. Okay, maybe downtown theater, but when you go to the uptown theater, there's no market for it. So where do entrepreneurs or artists or creators in theater look for? They go to the Sundance. They go to the Sinophonic countries, that is the Chinese, the Asian-speaking countries. They go to the Lusophone, to the Francophone. They look at the Anglo. They don't look at very much, of course, the Anglophone, but they really trying to tap into. When you go to the Sinophonic countries, all the Asian countries, you'll be surprised to see how many Ugandans are there. And one time I was very surprised to find a group of friends who were doing traditional dance, this Baksimba, touring China for 6 months, non-stop, like 350 shows. And I was like, how do you guys and they're there. So content has been transcending. It's just that sometimes people are in a certain environment and they are not giving others an opportunity or to get to know about it and to tap into it. And that's also, I wouldn't call it an issue for many, but I think it would be a good opportunity. If someone knows that there is a market for content here, you could invite others to tap into it. So that's maybe what is a little bit lacking. But really, there is a very good, interesting, diversification of distribution of content here. And many people really want to sell their content because they know they are not going to sell here. Even if they even the filmmakers, they're making film, they sell them to South Africa. They're writing scripts, they want to go to Sundance because that's where they know that content is understood, content is appreciated, content is from its raw perspective. Sometimes people, when they see a film, they just see a film. They don't look at the process. They don't really imagine the process. So if you are part of this, understanding, trying to figure out how to deliver something to the market, and you don't know who is able, or people are not able to understand the process, then you have to go to those who understand it. And that's why you find most Ugandans are now, and I'll say this again, I always find it very sad to see that so many Ugandans have disappeared to Europe and America. People who would be great artists here, they have disappeared, you know, and they are living there. Of course, some of them are continuing their careers, others are not because of, you know, the situation, different environments. But it would be really, really sad to see that many more young people are moving out of the country to go and perform in Europe and America and Asia, because there's nothing they can do here. So that content, if it was produced here and developed here and distributed from here, it would give us also a boost in our own content development.
Wow. Well, thank you very much, Faisal. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Faisal and I will return discussing something around about the understanding of the relationship between France and Africa. The new relationship, what does it mean? We're breaking down the performing arts. When we talk about the performing arts, you know, market or, you know, industry, what does it really mean? Who fits where? What is it? What does it mean? Because we're talking about this thing as a blanket statement, but you're going to find some people are still lost, don't know what to do. But also, we will talk about, you know, this new Africa-France relationship. What does it mean? Is it making sense to most people who are actually in this industry? Do they understand what we're talking about? As the French people also done, the French government done much to actually come out to, you know, further this discussion. How has it been received from the African countries' perspective? Do the African leaders understand this? Are they seeing it as a way of making, you know, creating this industry to collaborate, or they're seeing it as a way of political gain, you know?
But also to add on to that, I think also we need to understand that when we talk about France, we're not talking only about France, the country. But France also has its territories, you know, like Reunion, Dominica, whatever, all these French-speaking under the, you know, they call them territories. They're still under France, and they have like next, I think early next month, I'll be going to a French territory, which is in the Indian Ocean. So you find that there are also other opportunities. Let's not only look at Paris.
Because it's open up for everyone, and of course we want to come back and have the discussion. So you want to, you know, be part of this conversation. Stay right there. We'll be right back after this. This is the Creative Industry Talk. My name is Okila, Faisal Kiwewa, and we'll be right back after this break.
Bubu that cannot stand on its own. Bubu must stand on the foundation of self-love. Now, by the time you start saying, buy this our own, it makes sense when you already love yourself. But we seem to have a country, and so they already had that foundation. The Nigerians are proud of themselves. If you ever interacted with any Nigerians, you'll be amazed. Nigerians, I've met Nigerians at airports, and they can be 4 Nigerians, and you'll think they are 50 Nigerians. There's this attitude they take that wherever we are, we must own that space. And we must own that space without apology. And let the world notice that we are there. We are present. So, and you've seen the same attitude in Americans. From their movies projected through so many things, through so much content, from the brand, from clothing to movies to music. So in a way, when you get exposed to that attitude long enough, you start to move your mindset towards them. So unless it's like a magnetic force of sorts. So we don't have our own magnetic force, and we spend too much time on negativity around ourselves. I think before we even preach Bubu, we need to have a campaign around self-love to reduce the negativity. Every time we see each other doing something amazing. Oh, Eddie has just done this. But he's not doing this other thing. But this other thing is lacking in his thing. Instead of focusing on the good stuff he has done, that's what those people are doing. Even the bad stuff is there. But how often do you see For example, there are street people in America. The whole world knows. Right in California, in the biggest economy in among the U.S. states, there are street people. They call it, there's those areas in Hollywood, I think, called Skid Row, where the street people are not any different from our street.
They're even worse than ours. And these hours here are better. We have food. There is very difficult.
Yeah, you go. But they keep away from that. They even try as much as possible to keep cameras away. It's only the internet today because that is enabling us to see those things. But these have been there for so many years. How much attention have we given to Hollywood content? But we've never seen all of that. So I think for Bubu to make sense, and for Bubu, it needs to stand on the foundation of self-love. We need a campaign around loving ourselves and reducing the negativity, and then we can talk Bubu.
Welcome back from that break. This is a Creative Industry Talk. My name is Okila, and of course in the studio is Faisal Kiwewa from the Bayimba Cultural Foundation, and we are discussing the New Africa-France relationship. What does it mean? There's a conference that happened in 2021 in Montpellier, and Ugandans attended that. Many Africans, 3,000 people from African continent attended that. And of course the New Africa-France Summit, what does it really mean for Uganda's creative industry, particularly in performing arts industry? What does it mean? Are we taking advantage of that? And of course, we're hosting Faisal today, and as a resident panelist to discuss this. Faisal, welcome back to the program. Sure. Before we went for a break, we were breaking the, are we ready for this new relationship going forward? Is our content being prepared towards that direction? We want to tackle this a little bit more. The French may have talked about this, and at the point where we were going into a break, you talked about the territory is not Paris. It's not just Paris. It extended to where the French, the Francophone, territories, so to speak. Colonies, where people are speaking French, and it is a language. And I've been meeting people from Guadeloupe, been meeting people from different other places, the islands, and everybody's talking about this is a good place for us, a good start for us. But I want to just pick your mind from the person who attended the conference, the summit in Montpellier. The African presidents were not invited, but the young people from Africa were invited. And we know very well from the African perspective that sometimes we focus a little bit more on politics than the content that comes with. What was the sense, do you think rather that the African president will support their own creative arts industry towards this?
They don't have a stake in it. I think, I don't do politics, I'm never interested in the game. But I also know that when it comes to these kind of initiatives, the government's role is very limited. It's only them doing what they are supposed to do or what they should have been doing already, like making sure that the regulations are good, copyright is implemented, and intellectual property is protected. These are the government responsibilities, but they have no stake in the implementation of a partnership. If I want to do a collaboration with a French producer or a French artist, I can contact them on email, and if there's any opportunity for support from the French embassy or the French government or FD, that's our conversation. The government has no stake in it. I think here, for me, what I would like to emphasize on is to see how do we identify the territories, the areas that we can engage in as performing artists or producers or programmers. I think when we talk about the performing arts, as you say, that it's not only music, it's not only theater, but there are so many other things. And how do we know that within France or its territories, there are opportunities for all these different art forms? Which areas support what kind of art forms? Because France is diverse, and also with its territories, but there is a lot of areas that are more known for different things. For example, if you want to do like a market, you know, there is a Midem, which is like Doa Doa. It's one of the biggest French music market. And do people know about Midem? Do Ugandan musicians know about Midem? Or they might have heard of Doa Doa, but do they know that there is a bigger Midem? Now that there is an opportunity for this exchange and say, how can we start preparing our musicians to be able to showcase at Midem? Because it's an opportunity, and now they have even opened the African version of Midem, which has been running online for 2 years. So there is that opportunity of us identifying where can we go, where can we take our content. There is Babalmed in Marseille. It's also a big market that also takes care of you know, performing arts artists from Africa. Joel has performed there. He has had opportunities.
This is Joel Sabunja.
Joel Sabunja has been there. So it's these are some of the areas. Then when we go to theater, there are theater festivals. There are, you know, installation, video mapping, you know, events and festivals. There are so many fashion shows. You know, Paris or France is known for fashion. How can we work with people like Stella Tar to start really, because she was there, she knows where to talk to, how to engage. She's in the fashion industry. How can we start tapping into that connection and relation and start building our fashion designers to start showcasing more in France? So these are the things I think we need to start cultivating and making sure that our artists, our performing industry is aware of these opportunities. But most of the time, when you talk about these opportunities of performing as so, people mostly think about music, performing in a club or performing at, no, we need to go deeper and also trying to, you know, discover new forms of art, because France has a lot of new forms of art. There are so many initiatives that come from there. How can we make sure that our artists are prepared to tap into those opportunities and also widen their scope and know that if you're talking about theater and festivals and stuff, then there are so many big festivals of theater in France, and not only in France but also in the rest of Europe, where people are being awarded each year with lots of money, with lots of good productions. How can we know, how can they get to know about this, so that they only don't look at the Anglophone countries?
Okay. Talking of that, Faisal, you bring a very good perspective to it. And I actually want some people, if you're out there and watching this video, we want to hear from you. If you're performing arts, you know, talent, please share with us your thoughts, your understanding of this new relationship. Do you understand what it means? Do you know what is expected of you to be able to be on the same stage with a French, you know, artist or performing art person? Do you understand from a, you know, French speaking countries artists performing art from that area? Do you understand what they are doing to meet the expectations of the Anglophone speaking countries in Africa? Do you understand what is expected of you? Faisal, talking of that, it appears that many of our conversation here normally are not looking at crossing the border. We tend to be very comfortable at home here, and so some things come and pass us by. Some things comes like they announce this, and you find Ugandans are still not aware of this. And a few people like Faisal, like Peter, like Paul Charles Rukundo, and a few people like Divine Nabawesi. These are the guys who are more outspoken, outgoing, and looking for these things, like the Bobby Ogwal of this world. The people who went, and people who are opening up to these things. But when they come back, do they have this conversation with these people, with the Ugandans? Do Ugandans know this, or we are comfortable doing our things locally here and, you know, everything else?
You know, I don't know. I mean, I speak for myself.
But you're a programmer. You interact with people who are in the writing industry, people who are in the theater industry, people who are in, you know, the drama industry. I mean, a lot of us are doing things locally, and we seem to be comfortable. And I don't see much of it going outside.
I think it's sometimes the excitement level. I mean, I had it as well. Not the non-sharing, but you know, at the beginning, I think 15 years ago, when I just started traveling, I was always excited to show myself at the airport and take a selfie in the plane and then send it to whatever. I don't do that anymore. I think it's more like now I know I go somewhere because of a reason, and I'm always interested in going somewhere where I either add value or I'm getting something from there. These two things are very important, and that's why I'm always encouraging a two-way, or at least be contributive. Because for me, most of the time, if you want to go somewhere and you really don't have a reason why you're going there, then you're wasting your time and people's money.
Yeah.
So it's important that maybe not, but sometimes it's that why people don't talk about things, because they are overwhelmed by the environment that they get themselves into, and they are not aware of how to deal with it. It's something that we all have to learn, because even me, it took me some time to know, if I go to Womex, what am I expected of? Why am I there? You know, and what am I going to get back? And what is worth my investment? And when we talk about investment, we're not talking about only the money we put in the tickets, but we're also talking about the time. You know, it's an investment. That opportunity cost is very important for the work that we are doing. So if people are not yet, they don't get used to this getting on the plane and off, and then once you get used to that, then you can start focusing on what you're meant to do. But once you, if you fly once a year,
yes.
It's going to be difficult to get over it. But if you're flying every 2 weeks, then you'll be like, come on, why am I coming there? You know, so this is what this is the difference, and it's very honest. You know, it's very honest that if people are not used to this, being with different people, getting to know different spaces and getting exposed to different areas, then it's difficult for them to go somewhere where they have a reason. And I'm lucky, we are lucky these days that COVID has helped us, because so many times people used to travel to go to a workshop. I'm going to blah, blah, blah for a workshop on human rights. I'm going to go to that. And then they reach there, they go shopping, you ask them, what did you learn? Nothing. And it's because now that they realize, okay, we can do so much online, and we are also learning to also program things online. So it's a whole different conversation. Maybe now we can start bringing things back. But I think for me, what is important is that wherever you want to go, wherever you're going, it's important to know, what are you going to give? What are you contributing to that place, to that environment, to that space, to that meeting that you're going to, and what are you going to bring back? And that will give us some kind of value in terms of making people understand that when you come back home and there's something that you've learned, you can share it with others.
Wow. Well, I mean, we're talking about the new Africa-France relationship, the summit. I want Tim to just put it up there so that I can take you through this a little bit more, and that's what Faisal is talking about. The new Africa-France relationship 2021 means a lot. What does it necessarily mean to, you know, for Uganda's creative industry in the performing arts, you know? And we're talking to Faisal Kiwewa from the Bayimba Foundations, fresh from that Montpellier, you know, summit in France. And well, a lot of things were discussed on that stage. They're now saying we are open to come, open for you to come and, you know, showcase your art here. We want to do this now on an equal time and equal measures. It means that a Ugandan can go to France and showcase. Africans now, you know, operate with the Francophone countries, you know, or territories at an equal opportunity measure. As to whether it's going to be a reality, it's really time will tell. But are we preparing to go there? And you know, something that Faisal has been talking about here, very important. If you are used to boarding a plane once or twice, you know, your experience is not as good as an artist or a performing artist from the Francophone countries who are always boarding the plane. They don't go to take selfies. They go to do things at a different level. Faisal, that said, I want to come back to you for a moment. How do we get Ugandans, particularly from where we sit, you know, to start looking at this from beyond the selfies, beyond appearing in Paris and running around? I mean, I get the sense that of the 3,000 people who went to France, very few of them actually engaged themselves to discuss serious business. Most of them were running, for the first time, they were stuck and running to enter. Just the trend wowed so many of them and took away the attention from the business and the opportunity that could have presented itself to them. And many of them were spending a lot more time for tourism purposes, as opposed to trying to meet the new, you know, minister here or meet the new talent manager there from West Africa to crack the business so that they can board the plane a little bit more, you know, because this was paid for by the French government. It might not come back again for the next time. But how do we help our people here to know that when you get opportunity to go there, don't just go for selfies? No, it's a one chance given to you. Use it.
But I think, you know, to be honest, we all They call it amalo. You know?
Yes.
Now, and even me myself, I mean, I travel a lot, but sometimes if I go to a city like Paris, I'm like, oh, let me go to the Louvre, let me go to see the park, or let me go to see the Eiffel Tower. It's something we do, but you do it when you've at least done something that is meaningful, or you're going to do something that is meaningful for the purpose that you're there. You're not invited for tourism. You're invited for a certain reason, and not everyone that is invited is going to make meaning to the contribution or to contribute to the conversation that is going on. Maybe you're invited as a spectator and that's your role, but how do you know how to navigate that? It's a process, to be honest, and it really needs someone to be aware of how to network, how to speak to people, how to pitch your works, how to engage with with people, and also how to do your background research. Who is there? If you're going in a conference hall where there are 3,000 people, where do you start from if you don't know who is there? You get what I mean? So you have to know, like, okay, if there so and so is there, Faisal is there, Eddie is there, what does Eddie do? Maybe we have some similar interests. I met so many young people from Africa who are doing stuff. There was a guy who was working in Burkina Faso, and he's doing recycling shoes. I'm like, what do you mean you recycle shoes? I'm like, when your shoe is broken, you give it to me, I repair it, I design it differently, and I sell it back to you. I'm like, that's really cool. And he was getting gigs. He was getting a lot of gigs. And there were like all these young fashion designers, all these young creative, entrepreneurs doing software, games and all that stuff. And I'm like, there is a lot of workforce. There is a lot of human capital that is coming up in this on this continent. But I think for me, what is really important, whenever I travel, and it's not always, but most of the time when I travel, I like to admire. And when I look at something and I like it, I try to imagine it if I can do it. In my area of business, not in road construction or architecture, whatever, but when I see a good performance, when I see a good art form, when I see, I imagine it being here. That's why over the 10 years, we've managed to create new forms of art here that people are thinking like, oh, that's impossible, like video mapping, street theater, like sound art, these kind of things that people have never, you go to a space and you find an artist has, created something that is unimaginable, and be like, how do they come up with this? How can I get this guy to teach some of my colleagues in Uganda? And that's why every time we have a new form of art that we are introducing, we invite like 10 to 15 people. But at the back of my mind, I know one or two will pick it up. Not everyone will like it or understand it. So I think if we I don't know how they call it, like okwegomba. I don't know how it's in English. I like to
go out there, look at things, imagine
and I admire them, and I'm like, I admire them and
see
like,
if you can come and do them here.
Yeah, it's the whole force that keeps me moving, because I know most of the things I like are not possible now.
Yes.
But I work towards that. And that's why I'm investing in my own space, whereby we will soon be having our own Bayimba Center, where we have invested brick by brick, dollar by dollar, shilling by shilling, on our own. Because I know that when you go to all these spaces in Paris and you find all these big museums, big theaters, in New York and Venice, wherever you go, do we ask ourselves, who built these buildings? Do we know how these buildings came to exist? Some of them were not even government buildings. They were by individuals from their own effort. And maybe later on, 50, 100 years later on, the government finds interest in them and starts taking care of them and opening them up to the public. So what are we contributing to the future of our spaces? We cannot start only thinking around tomorrow, today, and I find that a very big problem. We need to start thinking further. We need to start thinking what is going to happen 100 years from now. What are we going to show? Are we just going to show all these, small, untaught buildings around the city? There's nothing creative about it. But if we had the idea of admiring what other people have, and for me, it's very, very important. And I tell my colleagues, even my donors, like, don't tell me about space that we don't need space. We do need space from ground zero, and everywhere. But we, the people in the industry, have to learn to admire those spaces and create our own spaces that will be representing our country, our spaces, our art forms in the future. Yeah. So the issue of admiring is very, very important. When you have a chance to go to other places, look around and see. And just imagine yourself being part of this new initiation in your own country. Yeah. How would that be?
Well, we're going to take a break. Faisal is spitting fire right now that when you fly out, you must be able to imagine things on a bigger stage and a bigger scale. And of course, we're talking about the new Africa-France relationship, the summit that happened in 2021. What does it really mean to the creative industry in Uganda, particularly this week, today? We're talking about the performing arts industry. Are we taking advantage of it? Do we know much about it? Are we beginning to prepare our work towards that? We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Creative Industry Talk will tackle the final part of the show. We'll be discussing how do we take the advantage of this relationship to showcase our art, and Faisal will be sharing a few more as we close the show. So that I'll be right back after the break.
France is happy, joyful, and proud to be France. That's the first thing we can learn from France.
Yeah.
France knows all about France. France celebrates France. France celebrates its history, its cuisine, its language, its music, its culture. So when we want to have a conversation with France, it helps if we also come from a point of celebrating our history, our culture, our heritage, our food, then we can have it. Because the conversation involves exchange.
Yes.
So we have to have something to bring forward. And if we don't yet understand ourselves fully, if we don't yet celebrate ourselves fully, it's difficult to begin to share what
It is a Creative Industry Talk. Welcome back to the program. My name is Okila, and we're discussing the new Africa-France relationship. What does it really mean? This new relationship with Africa, what does it really mean to the creative industry? Particularly the performing arts is what we're discussing today. Why have we focused series on this Creative Industry Talk, talking about the meaning of this new relationship to the creative arts industry in Uganda and across Africa? It's because creativity is at the core of everything we do. Every time we wake up in the morning, we're talking about creative ways of how do we sell this product? How do we get product A to the market? How do we get product B to the market? How do we attract other people to come and sell our culture to them so that we can make money? You know, it's all about creativity. No one wakes up in the morning and do not know what to do creatively to attract money to them. Value is attracted to where there is value. And of course, Faisal is with me on the program today discussing that. And Faisal, welcome back to the program. Yeah. We are talking about, you know, how do we help Africans to, you know, start beginning to take advantage of this, think beyond this. You have been going across the world, you know, as a festival programmer. You, first of all, we want to break down, you know, the different forms of arts under the performing arts sector. And then you have been going around the world, you know, doing and performing and, you know, creating platform for people to perform as a programmer. What are the processes that you go through when you're picking and selecting that person to go there? And what kind of form of art do you take there? Yeah. I mean, we could be talking like this and many people actually don't know that they need to prepare themselves towards putting themselves out so that they can now begin to interact with some of this new relationship that we're talking about. Yeah, I think
when you to do the kind of work that like I do, you need to educate yourself. We are unfortunate that we don't have a school of arts management here in this country, and I don't think anywhere in East Africa. So it's very difficult for someone to understand the scope of the work that we do. But if you want to learn, if anyone who is a programmer out there and who wants to really engage in these theories of learning to do things differently, you have to study. Like, I think the bottom line, the basis of this business is really to study culture economics. When you study culture economics, you will understand the process of understanding culture. It's a very public, good kind of approach. Yeah. You put yourself there as a sacrifice. The way our president said, he sacrificed his hand and kept this to himself. Yes. You know, so you also have, no, it is serious. If you have to understand that when you learn culture economics, you understand the basics of arts management, the basics of programming. So when you do that, then you understand that when you put yourself into this job, you are sacrificing yourself for the better good of the rest of the industry. Yeah. And that means that you're going to put your interests aside, and that's what many people don't understand, and put the interests of the industry to be your first priorities. Yeah. When people ask me, why are you always working? Because I decided to make 99% of my time to work. And I decided not to be an artist because I realized that if I am an artist and I want to be an arts manager, I'll not be able to do the same. I put my 99% of the time in my work, and then the rest 1% I share it with the people next to me. So it's a difficult situation, and this is where it starts from. So you understand that the business is a public good. You have to, when you do that, then you can start looking at things. What do you do if you're a public servant? You work for the people. The people are your bosses. And if you are in a position like ours where you're supposed to kind of define the future of your own effort, then you'll start to understand that going out there, if you have the opportunity of going out there to see people and admiring their work and bring it down to your people, to share it with, to collaborate, to network, to connect with the rest of the world, it becomes a normal thing to do. Yeah. Because you already understand why you are doing it. Yeah. So for me, I think when it comes to these all relations, when it comes to this understanding of the performing arts, as wide as there are so many, you know. But the thing is that, do we even understand our own subsectors of the performing arts? So if you're doing theater, how best do you understand theater? If you do not understand theater that much, but you're doing it, are you helping yourself to study? What kind of learning are you doing? So it's really about people also making an effort to educate themselves, making an effort to find out what is happening within their own territory, within their own area, and also trying to invest in themselves. People don't like to invest in themselves. They can invest, they think finding transport and lunch to go to a rehearsal is the only way to invest in yourself. But educating yourself and also trying to figure out, finding opportunities is a very good way of educating yourself. Okay. And I always ask people, like, if you spend at least 2 hours on Facebook and Twitter, why don't you invest that time in learning about your industry, about where you are and how you can better yourself? So it's really about learning. The performing arts are wide, there are so many, but people really can only benefit from them if they understand better and they can open their minds to make sure that they're only not looking at what they are, where they are, but they're also checking out to figure out what is happening around the world. And if you understand what is happening around the world, it helps you to kind of speed up your own process of developing yourself and doing better. Okay.
Faisal, would you share with us one thing that is very key as we wind up the show? Break down the performing arts. What are the different subsectors under the performing arts that we need to know? Because when you're talking about performing arts, some people may not even know that they're in the performing arts. Maybe they're in the wrong sector of it. Maybe they need to move to the next sector of it. Maybe they don't know. Maybe I'm there attracted because this is what is paying my bill right now. But perhaps my quality, my gifting is really into writing. And if I write, I make other people really look good. And therefore, I need to spend time writing and actually focused on the writing, and then I use this new Africa-French relationship that they're talking about, that Africa now is more open, to begin to seek opportunity to write for other people, cross-border writing, you know, so that my script can go out, then I can begin to travel across the world, as opposed to being a writer and at the same time I want to be a performer, and at the same time
I mean,
so can you break that for us?
No, I think, of course, you can be a writer and a performer, but okay, breaking it down, like in performing arts, we have music,
yes,
we have dance, and dance is also divided. There's urban dance, there's traditional dance, there's folk dance, yes, there is contemporary dance, and then we have theater, which we have traditional theater, like community theater. Then we have the high-end theater, yes, and then also we have like dance theater, which is more like you find the ballet contemporary performances of like the Nutcracker and all these Mary Poppins and stuff like that. Then we have fashion is a performing art. Even though someone thinking I sit down, I'm not performing, but you create a piece and then you put it on stage for people to catwalk on it. That's a performance. Writing, creative writing, because when you're writing, you don't write for yourself only, but you're writing for people to read and to act, or to create. Yeah, we have poetry. We have so I mean, there's a lot. We have video mapping. It's a performance, and sometimes you might think because it's visual and video, you think it's a visual art. No, but it's a performance, because video mapping has become more interactive now, and it has become kind of like an engagement between a space and the people. So, and I really like to explore this, and this is something I'm really cultivating with my team. I want to start a festival for video mapping, like light up this whole city, and with different concepts and designs and stories, and but it's a very expensive art form, to be honest. And then what else is there? Street theater. There is and there's a difference between theater in a theater and a street theater. When I introduced street theater here, I think 12 years ago, people thought that but it's a very mature way of acting, because you don't have a script, you don't have anything, you're kind of reacting to. You can have a thought or a theme in your head, but then you're kind of reacting to a space, to the situation. So you are spontaneously engaging with people and stuff like that. So the performing arts are wide, and they're really a lot.
Now, just give us a few. You've talked about quite a varied number of the performing arts subsectors under that. We want to just break it down. Do we have some of these form of arts in Uganda that are known? Because we might find that we're skewed to a very few of them, and we don't know really many of them that are quite very important that could take advantage of. Now that we're talking about, Africa being open to the Francophones, and the Francophone countries being open to the Africa.
I think the challenge with some of the art forms, they're quite expensive and exhausting. When you talk about like video mapping, I mean, if you're a video mapping artist in Uganda, where would you get a job? He's going to give you a gig, So you are in it for a big.
That's why they were saying the new Africa France is open.
So
for this
I think, and also if you're a video artist here, you really. I mean, it will be really hard for you to get a gig in France or Europe, because they are at a whole different level when it comes to mind, when it comes to skills, when it comes to software, because all these things work with software. Every time there's a new software, there's a new, it's like being on these apps that people use all the time. All the time there's something new. And how do you keep up with that? So some art forms would be really difficult for some of the Ugandan artists. And it doesn't mean that it's easy for the European or the Americans. It's also difficult for them, but what happens with them is that, first of all, they have the knowledge, they have schools where they go to learn this, and it's recognized. It means that when they come out of those schools, they are respected because they learn that form of art. And then when they go out in the market and they don't have gigs, there is a system that helps them to survive. They are given some, capital or money to survive on, even if they don't have a gig. When they get a gig, they can declare that they got a gig, and then they don't have to claim money from the state. So
gig being business in
So if there was a system like that, and imagine Eddie or young people who are, and every year there's also these opportunities, like every year there's a lights festival, there is a video mapping festival, there's all these street theater festivals. So it means that someone is working, even though they know they are not going to get paid all the time, but they know at the end of the year there is something they look up to. And that gives them the motivation to create that kind of content. But if there is no opportunity, there is no platform for them to show their work, then it becomes difficult for them to be motivated.
That's why
sell it where?
That's why now we're saying the new Africa relationship
but
is opening that room for us to now go and say,
course.
go land,
yeah,
or open up.
Of course, it opens up, but also we have to understand that we need to start working harder to level the ground, to start competing with the content, because also the French artists they also need gigs.
Yes.
So you're not going to come from here and start stepping on their toes because I'm coming from Uganda and this is where I saw the opportunity. They'll pick you up.
Yes.
So what is important is to work on merit, to work on your betterment or your development of your skill.
Yeah.
So how do we develop our skills? How do we also start offering opportunity? We are not only looking at taking our artists to France, but we're also looking at bringing the artists to Uganda, the French artists. So for me, what is actually more useful, and this is what I've been doing over these years, is that when I see an art form or an artist and he's good, I bring them to my festival. For the reason, because I know taking one artist from here to France would cost me much more money, and maybe that person would just go and take selfies. But if I bring the other artists here, no, serious. If I bring the other artists here, then there is an opportunity for that artist to be seen by a wider number of other artists. And maybe from those, they will start looking, how did he do that? You know, look at the difference with Maurice Kiria. The Maurice Kiria of 10 years and the Maurice Kiria now is at a whole different league.
Talking of
look
it, he was performing in Netherlands recently, and the place was packed.
No, look at
they seem
GNL.
to understand his music.
GNL has been good since he started his music, and now he's at a whole different level. Exposure, interacting, collaborating, looking at others and how they're doing things, and being in a space that supports the industry that he is in. So we have to look at what do we do as a people in our positions to admire what others have done for their industries, and then that will give us the opportunity to start nurturing our own industries. But if we only look at problems and money here, pressuring people for support when you know they can't give it to you, but you just need to also work on yourself, be able to deliver and create the work that can take you to another level. And that comes with admiring others.
So it's basically what you're saying, Faisal, in summary, is that yes, the new Africa-France relationship is there, but it's not going to be a silver plate platter. I mean, it is still possible that people who are coming from France can take advantage of you because you don't know it and still tell your story their way, and there's no problem with it because it's open now for everyone to do. That's what you're saying, right? Wow. Faisal, thank you very much for coming to the program today. We really have to bring this to a close, but we want to say thank you, and we want to encourage all those people out there to be part of this conversation going forward, and of course take this advantage of some of the things Faisal is talking about and begin to widen your scope, your horizon, your thinking capacity, your creative capacity. And, be close to people like Faisal, be close to people who went to France. Ask them, what did you learn from France? How can they take advantage of it? There are many. Uganda, I think, had over 20 people that went. And I think these 20 people are back. If they can share as much information, that would be very great. And Faisal, one last thing as you go. You've talked about GNL, and I think that there is a new Nsimbi band that was created after 5 years of being in America. He's back in East Africa, and I think it launched a new product this year. Are we going to see this new product, make its way programmed on Bahimba?
I don't know. I haven't had a chance to have a conversation with GNL. I know he asked me some months ago for a meeting, but I haven't really had. I've been also busy. But I think it's I admire the work. I admire the level of creativity and the maturity in it, and I think it's one way of returning that kind of talent to our country to inspire other young people. And I think he has a mission to also engage more young artists to learn from him, to be helped by his work that he's doing so that they can also move another step forward. So that's really the spirit of Ubuntu, the spirit of nurturing others, because he's been nurtured. He's gone through a process whereby other people have helped him, and now he's coming back to help others. I think it's a very genuine thing, and I'm looking forward to working with him, inshallah.
Wow. And thank you very much. You've added from there. So I asked that question because if somebody's doing something important, I think that it's important for us to actually be able to support them, to make sure that, you know, we give them opportunity to be part of that. And I think GNL right now has that form of art coming. There's Kinobe who has a new thing and is thinking of coming back home and showcasing it here. Are we going to see some of this new art coming back to
it's fascinating. It's fascinating because what has been happening is that most of the people, they had nowhere to go.
Yes.
You know, like Kinobe, you know, if he comes here, where is he going to perform?
Yes.
Except in maybe at Ndere Center, which is, you know, might be not ideal for his sound.
Yes.
The National Theatre is too small for him.
Yes.
So we need to start thinking for our artists and we need to start thinking like, okay, even if JNL wants to put up a concert, where? Serena, that's not a concert place. Okay, we use it because it's what we have. You get what I mean? So we need to start thinking for our artists, like if we have this talent and we need them, we appreciate them, how do we start planning and preparing for them? And that's not a responsibility of only us in the performing arts industry or the programmers, but it's a responsibility of everyone in the planning, the government, in all this stuff. We need to start looking at all these people, even for example, all these young kids they are sending out to work in the Middle East. What do we plan for them? Okay, let's go, they work for 2 years and whatever they collect, when they come back, what do they find? What are we planning for them? I think it's important that we know, okay, when you send someone to acquire a skill, you have to make sure that when they come back with that skill, they find where they can practice that skill. You get what I mean? So if we have all these great musicians, the Kinobes, the Ntare Guma Mwine, we have the, you know, JNL now, we have Oscar, we have so many in contemporary dance, in film, in theater, you know, they are all out there making headlines. The Daniel Kaluyas, they are making headlines. When they come home, what do they find?
So it's basically an opportunity for everyone who is investing now to say, let's invest in a bigger platform.
I was actually thinking, you know, recently I was driving around and I saw all these Sudil buildings putting up, and I'm like, because he's an investor and he has an opportunity and he has so many stuff that he's working on in his head. But does the Capital City Authority sit with this guy and tell him like, okay, you're an investor, you're a real estate investor, but this is our plan as a city. As you're thinking of building a hotel here, a mall here, can you also work with us, you know, to create some of the things that we want as a city? So that because it's your space, it's your investment, but these are some of the ideas we need for this city. You get what I mean? Can you think around, instead of building 10, 15 hotels, can also build a theater here? Can you also put a black box here? Can you put a studio here? Can you add it in your plan? That would be really smart, you know, because he's already investing. He's putting in, like I see him, he's adding another wing at Kabira. What if, you know, that space, I would imagine putting a theater there. Instead of those box rooms, you know, putting a theater there. One of the halls and making it perform. Because
you're now speaking like a performing artist, a programmer,
Like you have a hotel here, and then people can stay there, and then you have a performing space here. You know, it's
where
in the
people
middle.
can actually come.
Exactly.
It creates that ambience.
And then you can see that, you know, you put one in that area, Bokoto, serves in Tinda, serves whatever, and then if he's investing at Simba Manyo, now he owns it here. Then you can also, you know, put something like that supports that community there. You know, you plan with the city. I wonder whether they have this conversation, because I don't see it happening.
Perhaps we need to bring this conversation there. I mean, well, the Creative Industry Talk is meant to bring the policymakers together. And we've been trying to get the policymakers to come to basically have this conversation with the creative minds, the policy people who are in the policy business, to say, hey, come together and let's have a conversation. Maybe we need to engage some of these people. Perhaps some of these things are not out and they are not aware. and it's something that we need to think through. But well, thank you very much, Faisal.
Welcome.
First of all, for coming to the program today. We've got to spread love. No. The spread love is spread from here, and then you spread the love outside to the rest of the people. And we want to say thank you for coming, and looking forward to having you again back on the show, and of course visiting Lunkulu. If you haven't visited Lunkulu Island, please do. And Faisal has an amazing place there in the island just between Buikwe and Mukono. Please visit Lunkulu Island and see the new theater and some of the fantastic stuff coming into that forest in the island, and of course you will be amazed. That is the moment that brings us to the the close of a creative industry talk today. Until next time, we stay blessed, stay focused, stay creating, stay creative, and take advantage of the opportunities available to you, and of course stay away from the disease that might destroy you before you achieve your dreams. Okila, Faisal Kiwewa, signing out.